The Rainin J's ride again. We're previewing the regular season. We're wrapping up the preseason, and we're getting ready to pick every single game. It's all right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Boston, baby, we do what you can't. Locked on number 18, Tatum and Brown, J team. Step back, we gon' wet that and slay teams. Of course, the Celtics, who else could it be? Screaming like KG with the Larry O.B. Karalis above average, assessing the team status. Best daily pod, no cap, salary matching. Clutch like Bird the DJ, keep John on replay. Prime time, dapping up the truth on the sideline. Rainin J's how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners. B.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. And I'm here for you every day with a free, fresh podcast wherever podcasts exist. So subscribe. You can subscribe on YouTube. You can watch the show there, ring the bell, get notified as soon as I drop a new show. I want to thank you for making this your first listen every day. Really do appreciate that. I'm John Karalis, former professional basketball player. Now I'm a credentialed beat writer covering the Celtics for Boston Sports Journal. I'm also the author of the book, The Boston Celtics All-Time All-Stars. Today's show, special one because it's the Rainin J's all together again. For people who don't know, the original Locked On Celtics podcast was the Rainin J's podcast with me and Jay King. We brought in Sam Packard. We had a nice run here in the Locked On Podcast Network before they left for The Athletic. They do Anything Is Poddable over there now. And I have this show here by myself. So 2 great podcasts with the same members of the team. But every once in a while, beginning of the season, we like to get back together again and pick every single game of the regular season. That is happening on the Anything Is Poddable feed. Today, here, we're starting out with a review of the preseason and some thoughts going ahead to the regular season. Then on Anything Is Poddable, we start picking every game of the regular season. We're doing it in pieces, so it's not a big 2-hour-long podcast. We're doing smaller chunks, so you'll get the first couple months of the season on Poddable. But for now, let's get started. Me, Jay, Sam, talking about the preseason. Oh, look at this. We're starting the podcast with... Okay, yeah, there we go. Everybody pop out the front of their... Skidmore basketball. Jay King, bench legend over at Skidmore. That's good. How you guys doing? This is a very Rainin J's. We've spent 15 minutes with Jay trying to get his audio right.
Those headphones were impressively tangled. That was
yeah.
That was one of the most
that took some
endeavors.
Time. That took some time. So we can never actually start on time. We can never actually start cleanly. But we're here. We're here to talk about the preseason. We're here to talk about what we got. So for people who are
Karalis is pretending to be at the Celtics practice facility.
Yeah, it's called
a fake photo of the practice facility.
Yeah, it's a real photo. It's just it's a green screen. It's green screen technology. It's very common.
You don't even see the Kaizen beam though. So is it really worth it? You couldn't get a picture under the Kaizen beam?
Oh, no, I can very easily change this. That's not a problem. I can do
Clearly I don't understand green screen technology. What? You can Whoa!
There we go. Now I'm in a different spot. I've teleported up, and if I get out of the way, there's your Kaizen over there. So, yeah, I can do whatever I want here. Jay's just upset because Jay has the most boring background, most boring gear, just terrible. All right, well, let's just get to this so we can get to the picking of the games. I feel like, all right, I can just boot Jay off, so we can just talk. What do you guys want to talk about first here with the preseason here? I feel like let's start with Packard. Packard, how are you coming out of this? You coming out of this preseason more optimistic, less optimistic, or about the same as you went into it?
I think more optimistic. I think after the whole Ime Udoka scandal, I was like, oh, this team's not going to be able to do anything. That's going to be a cloud over the whole season. And then I realized they still have a tremendous squad of what I call basketball talent. And they seem to be able to put that together in a manner which allows them to both score points and not allow points, although they've had some vicious battles with the Toronto Raptors. I just got very, very excited about Malcolm Brogdon. Anytime Malcolm Brogdon's on the court, good things seem to happen, and I just like that addition to the depth, and I'm starting to trick myself into thinking that just coaching doesn't matter in the NBA, and they'll be smooth sailing from here on out. But you guys know me. I'm always the optimist. But just seeing them back on the court, it's like, oh, yeah, this is a collection of basketball players who was really found something at the end of last year, added Malcolm Brogdon to that, added the great Sam Hauser, and nothing but going up from here.
Jay, does coaching matter in the NBA?
Coaching absolutely matters.
Okay. How much does it matter?
That's a sucker's opinion.
It can matter quite a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, just look at the Heat year after year with Eric Spoelstra creating magic.
That's not coaching. That's culture. It's different.
Look at even last year how Ime Udoka turned around the Celtics and dealt with a situation that was really bad at first and changed the habits and changed the culture and changed the style of play and unselfishness that the Celtics played with. Like, coaching matters. Now,
no, it's a logical fallacy. That's post hoc ergo propter hoc. Just because that happened, we don't know what would have happened if someone else was the coach. What if I was the coach? That the season could have been turned around just as much. We don't know.
I'm pretty sure the season would have been pretty poor.
Good, like that things would have gone really
Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, and Jayson Tatum would have had a fist fight if you had been the coach after that Chicago Bulls loss in early November.
I feel like the fist fight would have been attacking Packard.
Yeah, I don't think they would have been with each other. They just wouldn't have respected me as a person.
Also that there would have been, but Joe Mazzulla could be good. We don't know yet.
Right.
And from a Celtics perspective, it's not only can he return them to the habits that Udoka coached last year, but how is he going to put his own twist on things? And I think the preseason suggests, partly because of the personnel and the Brogdon switch, and because Daniel Tice isn't around and there's not really a clear backup center, but they played really small during the preseason. And that seems to be a thing that Mazzulla wants to lean into. And I think that can change the Celtics. I think it probably will help their offense. I think it probably will hurt their defense. That said, like, you don't want to read too much into the preseason, but they were launching three-pointers, like just absolutely launching three-pointers. They were passing the ball. Their passing really stands out. Their shooting really stands out. And I didn't think they defended at too high a level for most of the preseason. And I also think when they're smaller, it's going to be tougher to defend at the elite level that they did last year. So those are the things that going into the season I'm looking at that will kind of decide to what level they perform at early on.
Yeah, I think that if they go small, if it's going to be consistently Derek White in the starting lineup, then Jayson Tatum defensively has to play pure power forward and has to be down there rebounding, down there contesting shots. It's the only way I think that lineup is going to work to get to that elite defensive level. Now, maybe they just kind of roll with it and it doesn't go exactly that well. And they say, but the offense can look really, really great with that lineup. So they might just say the uptick in the offense might be worth the drop in the defense. You probably come out a little bit more ahead. We don't know what Ime would have done with this lineup in this exact situation. What would he have done? Luke Cornett got hurt. Would he have started Vonleh? I don't think so. I don't think that's exactly the answer. He wouldn't have started Blake Griffin. He might have just been forced. And hey, early last season, he started Schroeder in situations where a big was out. So he has shown that he could have gone small too. So whether this is Mazzulla stylistically saying, I believe in the small ball, or Mazzulla saying, this is just our best option for what we have right now healthy. We'll see. We'll see when everybody gets healthier. Obviously, Rob's going to come back and start, but
Yeah, that changes a lot.
That changes a lot. But until then, when Luke Cornett is fully healthy, how much do they use him when he's up to speed? That I think we're still looking at a couple of weeks of the preseason where, I mean, the regular season where it's still going to feel like preseason. I think we're going to still see some mixing, matching in the lineups. But I do think that Mazzulla has done a great job when you listen to everybody talk at practice, I should say. They're all saying the details. He's very detail oriented. And I think he's leaning into the details just to make sure everybody's so hyper focused on the basketball and eliminating the distractions. I think if you can give Mazzulla any credit for this preseason, it's the focus on the details, the focus on the day-to-day, get the little things right, and the bigger things will fall into place, and we can eliminate the distractions that way. And I do think that the guys have looked generally focused on the floor, minus a couple of little instances like the third quarter in that final preseason game.
That was chaotic. That was
bad. But the first half was really good, I thought. More with the Rainin J's coming up next. First, let's talk about those subscriptions, those streaming services that you keep signing up for because one has one great show and another one has another great show. And eventually you've signed up for all of them and you don't watch a few of them anymore. I know that that's a problem. Most Americans, 80% of people have subscriptions that they forgot about. That's where Rocket Money comes in. You used to know it as Truebill, but Rocket Money will help you put all of those things in one place and start canceling the ones you don't need, the ones you forgot about, the ones that are a pain in the butt to cancel. That is going to save you a bunch of money because you're not going to have to go through 2, 3, 4 tries. You go to Rocket Money, you put all your subscriptions in one place, they will cancel the unnecessary subscriptions. So cancel those with Rocket Money today. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon. It can save you hundreds per year. You need that money. Everything's more expensive. Save your money. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon.
And the other part of this is usually when teams are off track and not focused, it's the players who will tell you. They'll tell you, we need to get better. We need to be sharper. And the Celtics have done nothing but say, we're focused. We have the right mindset. Mm-hmm. We have come into camp and worked on the right stuff with the right level of attitude and intensity. So I think all that stuff is promising because normally the locker room will be the one to tell you at that point. And preseason, it doesn't matter. The results don't matter. None of that matters, but the habits matter. And the approach that the players use, especially after having so much success last season, that matters. And especially with the Udoka scandal, like that could be something that overrides the good vibes and really causes turmoil. But it seems like everybody has the right approach. And they're going to need that to continue the great play that they showed at the second half of last season. This is a team that really has played great basketball for 3 months, 4 months. Even the playoff ride was like up and down, didn't know which Celtics you were going to get from night to night. But to build on last season, they have to be that team consistently. The team that took over shortly before the trade deadline and just kicked ass the rest of the way.
I think the big question is how do they deal with that first set of adversity? Like say they don't win or they're not as successful or they have a bunch of games back to back. Maybe we'll predict such a stretch in the ensuing podcast, but what happens when they lose 3 out of 4 or they just have a really bad game where they collapse, and how do they respond to that adversity? Because I think the biggest question for me before the Ime scandal was this team has a lot of expectations. They won the finals last year, or not. Well, they went to the finals last year, and I think there's a lot of expectations that they're going to get back. Then the Ime thing kind of happens, and it feels like they've said all the right things in practice. I guess focusing on the details. It is all preseason, and so they can say all the right things. But what happens when they get kicked in the mouth? do they kind of like rely on those championship habits and get back to kind of the basketball they played last season? Or is it kind of like spiral from there because it's first time head coach and we don't really have the belief in the locker room and we don't know exactly what's going on. So I think it's going to be real interesting. And they have a couple of tests very early on in the season to see how they respond. We know they're going to lose a random game to the Magic in like December. Maybe they'll do it twice. It's like, how do they respond to those games? I think it will like go a long way to say like how much this team has kind of moving forward.
Yeah. I mean, look, they could come right out of the gates here. This isn't an easy start to the season. You got Philadelphia right away at home. And I know people listening are going to say, well, the Celtics are better than Philly, but the Celtics are, really good. Philly's also really good. And each team can win, especially early on. You don't know what's going to happen there. And then the Miami-Orlando back-to-back, which, again, we will predict in the follow-up to this podcast. But that's no joke. Miami is a really good team. They're always a really good team, always well-coached. And Orlando has Orlando.
You're not going to hype up the Magic right now.
Orlando is a team that if you sleep, if you walk in there and think you're just going to like cruise through that game, I think they're a team that could catch you sleeping.
They could beat you like 23% of the time.
Yeah, but that's when you walk in there and say, they're going to be like Detroit was last year. They're not going to win a ton of games, but they've got talent. I think they've got some talent there that if you sleep, it's either going to be a lot of hard work to come back and win that game, or you're going to end up losing that game. So
for you guys, what was the most promising part of the preseason?
Malcolm Brogdon.
Brogdon. Got to be Brogdon.
Yeah.
I think the lineup, Brogdon, Smart, Jaylen, Jayson, and Al Horford is just the amount of playmaking on that lineup, just the offensive is just like all the problems that they had in the playoffs in terms of like clutch basketball, in terms of like maybe like when Derek White just wasn't a shooter and the ball swung to him and it was just a problem. I feel like that lineup is just a great crunch time lineup, and his ability to create, like he's looking to pass first, which I think is like exactly what this team needs, but he's also can score when he needs to, can take that three and make it. And so he's just a much better offensive player than Derek White. And so I just think they're that closing five, but maybe when Rob comes back, you put Rob in for Horford, is just so much more dynamic offensively than anything they kind of put on the floor last year.
Yeah. I think Brogdon's the answer. Go ahead.
I agree. And I think, watching him play with the Pacers, he was the go-to guy. He can run a pick and roll, all of that. Watching the way he can get into the paint and do that consistently and create threes for others. He set up Sam Hauser for like 10 extremely clean looks throughout the preseason. Like just time after time, it seemed like he was hitting Sam Hauser wide open and drawing the defense and then giving Hauser just a clean look. And that's really important. And that's stuff that really can change an offense from very good to great or whatever. Like that just lifts you. So I thought that was eye-opening to see how Brogdon can impact that. And I just thought Hauser was kind of a revelation too. Not just that, like the organization has been screaming at everybody that Sam Hauser can play. But it seems like he's really going to play a role at least early on while Robert Williams is out. And I just think with him, Grant Williams, and Malcolm Brogdon in the second unit, that's just a lot of shooting, man. And when you put Tatum with the bench unit of those guys, there's going to be so much space on the court. And I think some of the bench lineups that they used with Tatum in it, like I think Tatum is just going to be able to cook with those lineups.
So I'm going to say I'm going to rank my top 5 most encouraging things. I'm going to go 5 for you. Brogdon is number 1. I think Jaylen Brown coming out just on fire, focused, and playing like this is, late regular season is number 2. 3 is Tatum attacking the front of the rim and not gliding past it, playing through contact. Both he and Jaylen doing it, but seeing Jayson do it right away is really, really important. Those are probably the three most important elements. And then you throw in Hauser and Grant Williams, the off the dribble stuff. Those five things, I think, combined are my arguments for the positive spin of this upcoming season. You've got three key guys playing at a level that is better than expected, and you get two key role players doing things at maybe a little bit higher level than expected. Granted, it's 4 preseason games and 2 of them are against the Charlotte Hornets. Sorry, Sam. But they are the stuff that
I will not take Friedman slander.
Oh, now you're team Nick Friedman.
But yeah, those things going in, I say, I'm pointing to those 5 things and saying that makes me feel really, really good about what the Celtics can do. We talk about them potentially, if they're going to hit adversity, they could hit it soon. They could also come out right away and be like, no, the stuff with Ime happened, but we're still the players who were on the floor making it happen. And we're going to show you that the players are the reason why we got to the finals. So I think that can really play a big role.
And I feel like we're going to know very quickly what type of attitude this Celtics team has, how they're going to approach the regular season. I think it's going to be evident right away. Like, if you come back from that disappointment and you allowed it to fuel you all summer long, and you allow that to charge you toward not just getting back to the level you were at last season, but beyond that, and then you're going to come out sharp, sort of like the Phoenix Suns did last season. Mm-hmm. And obviously things ended very poorly for them. I guess poorly as it got. But they used the finals disappointment the year before to come back and just be on it and be a machine for the regular season. They lost Chris Paul for a while. It didn't matter. Like, they were just so sharp, so focused throughout the whole regular season. And so I do feel like we'll find out quickly whether this Celtics team is going to really use that to catapult forward and let it power them throughout the whole season.
Wrapping up this podcast with the Rainin J's in just a second, but let's talk about BetOnline, your number one source for all of your betting needs this season. And I hope you put some money down on the Patriots if you're a football bettor. They've got all of your football betting information there this season, from the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, in-depth articles, and analysis on every single game you can find over there at betonline.net. And as always, BetOnline is your continued source for your sports betting information, live betting, up-to-the-minute scores, podcasts. It's all there. It's the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite games and events. You got all your leagues. Obviously, the NBA, once these games are starting now, plus MLB playoffs, some big upsets in the MLB playoffs, MMA, boxing, golf, it's all there. So head on over to betonline.net. You can use your mobile device if you want to learn more. BetOnline is where the game starts. Please gamble responsibly. Let me throw out a question back to the coaching. What's your bigger concern? The in-game adjustments, the recognizing of runs and substitution patterns and all of that stuff, or the in the locker room dealing with adversity type of stuff?
I don't know enough to I'm gonna second guess Mazzulla's substitutions and rotations and timeout calls no matter what, just because I'm an obnoxious fan and think I know best. I think the actual concern is and something I think that Ime did a great job with last year is holding the guys accountable for, sloppy plays on defense or not passing the ball. And it's first year head coach. Is he going to be willing, I don't know, Jayson Tatum is talking to the refs too much and doesn't get back on defense. Is he calling that person out? And is he holding everyone accountable in that locker room for their mistakes? Or is he shying away because he's never done this before and he's kind of questioning whether or not he has the power to do so? So I think my bigger concern from that coaching front is just how does he handle the locker room and the personalities, and is he able to be the kind of I talked a lot about Hardo Ime last year, but I do think there was like some value in that of him just kind of being a jerk to everyone on the team and calling people out in the media. Remember that was like the big story from like all the first couple months of last year was like how willing Ime was to throw these guys under the bus.
Yeah.
I've been to only one Missoula press conference, but I wouldn't say he's the most dynamic voice and not some guy who's very
not
willing
to us,
like,
at least.
not willing to say much in the media. So it's like, what's his relationship going to be in terms of like keeping these players accountable? Because it doesn't seem like he's going to be like after the post-game presser be like, yeah, we were playing like a bunch of assholes like Ime did. And so it's like, how's he going to handle being that new coach in that environment and like, you know, keeping star players' egos in check so everyone's kind of bought into playing kind of team basketball, building championship habits, other cliches, etc.
And I thought part of what helped Udoka was that he did have a long NBA playing career. Like he played in the league for years. He was around great players, great teams, great coaching staffs. And I feel like that does give you a level of cachet. And I don't think you need that to succeed in the NBA as a coach. Eric Spoelstra, the guy I brought up earlier, did not play in the NBA. Greg Popovich did not play in the NBA. Like, you definitely do not need to have an NBA playing career to make it as on the sidelines. But I do feel like it helped him connect, and it helped him recognize the ways that the Celtics needed to steady themselves and the ways that they needed to build. And it gave him, like, he knew how to handle it when Smart, Jaylen, and Jayson had beef early in the season. He knew how to handle it when Tatum and Brown were basically pitted against each other in the media, and people were saying they couldn't play together. There was a lot of drama last year that they had to navigate. And so that's all the stuff that comes outside of it that you have to deal with. And maybe the Celtics are just past a lot of that stuff and won't need to navigate a lot of that. I think back to the Warriors the year that they came back from winning a championship and Luke Walton took over for Steve Kerr, and it was just smooth sailing. Like, they knew what they were. They knew what they wanted to do. I don't think it mattered who was coaching that team for that time. Like, they were just going to win a ton of games no matter what. And maybe the Celtics are like that, and they won't need to navigate a lot of that stuff this year. But if they do, like, it's possible Udoka's voice will be missed, and his strength will be missed, and the badass nature that he pulled out of those guys. Like, if it's not there right away and they need someone to pull it out of them again, it could matter that he's not there.
I think this is where you lean on the assistants, because there are plenty of assistants that
all of Ime's best friends.
All of Ime's very close personal friends.
Northwest Portland, stand up, right?
Yeah, right. But look, they're here. They're here to do a job, and they may realize that if they don't do a good job, then it won't reflect well on them after this, because pretty sure that everybody on that sideline understands, like, there's a good chance that I'm done after this season. So I kind of wonder if, in a weird way, this is just enough of the right kind of adversity to kind of galvanize everybody, because it's in everybody's best interests to go out there and do everything they can to help this team win a championship. And
but that's always in everybody's best interest.
Yes,
but they actually are a good team this year. They have an opportunity to do so.
Like, obviously it's in everybody's best interest to win a championship always. But for this team this year, when things can go south so quickly in so many different ways, every one of those assistant coaches who are Ime's close friends and could be like, you know what? I can't believe I don't want to put words in their mouths, but they very clearly will have some feelings of loyalty to their friends, to their friend. But any sort of like animosity, if it exists, again, I'm just saying theoretically, they'll know if you win a championship this year, everybody's stock rises, and all of these guys have the potential to be out on the market.
And Ime's never coming back.
And right, so like, if you're
win a championship to lose our best friend is job forever.
Well, I mean, yeah,
I'm kidding, obviously.
it's no, but you're right. But it's weird.
But it's
in
a weird
way,
situation.
It's a very weird situation. But this is how it goes, man. The NBA is a cold business, and your friend just, he's eventually, I think, going to get fired, and you got to move on. You have to move on. And if you're all just sitting there saying, I know we're all going to be coaching free agents, we might as well do our damnedest, and instead of just saying, you know what, mail it in because of everything that happened, because having that championship on your resume after all that happened, you're either going to stick around and be part of a long-term success, or you're going to have a championship on your resume. You're going to go get a good job somewhere else. So I just feel like if for something that could have torn a team apart, this has the potential to actually bring this team together. It's just a very unique, weird situation. So let's wrap it up with
it's
this.
Almost like coaching doesn't matter. If the players can just come together. I do think I say that jokingly, but
are you saying that Nick Friedman should not have a job?
No, Nick Friedman's one of the greatest offensive minds in the league, and he's being punished. Deep bench of a failing organization. That's not his fault. What I am saying is that it comes down to, I think, the players. It's up to Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart to be leaders on this team and not let this kind of change affect them. You talk about all the time basketball is a business. They understand players getting traded and things like that. I don't know if it's the craziest adjustment for them. Obviously it's something they're going to have to deal with, but I do think it comes down to them holding each other accountable and putting in the effort in and doing all of that to move forward. And so I say coaching doesn't matter, but I only believe it 80%.
And I do believe that those guys figured out something about themselves, about how to play winning basketball, about how to lead winning basketball last season. And they know now that's within them. They know now how to lift up their teammates. They've been through a lot. Those two guys, Smart, from the Kyrie years to Stevens stepping down at the end of a season along with Danny Ainge, to now the Ime Udoka nonsense, to all the other fights and whatever they've gone through over the years. And they reached a totally different level last year that rearranged their entire team. And so they know what it takes now. Whereas I genuinely don't believe they knew what it took before. And I think those guys have always had their hearts in the right place, but didn't necessarily know how to go about it on the court. But now they know. And now I think that could really transform them and transform the team to have that knowledge, as long as they're willing to recommit to it like they did last season.
I agree. I think look, they're veterans now. I think a lot of people think of Jaylen and Jayson as the young stars on this team, but they've been around. They're halfway through their careers. So they're not almost halfway through their careers.
Jayson Tatum isn't even halfway through his 20s.
There's just 25. So almost halfway through their careers. They're almost halfway through their careers. How's that? They're veterans now. They're not young kids. They've been around. They've been to Eastern Conference Finals. They've been to the finals. They've been through coaches. They've been through business. They've been through contracts. They are NBA vets. They're not the old heads yet, but they're NBA vets. So I'm supporting your point, Jay. So let's wrap this up by asking you guys, will these NBA vets get back to the finals? Does this team, in your opinions, I'll start with Packard, do you have faith in this team? Do you think they can get back to the finals?
I think they absolutely can. But I'm not going to give you my preview because you should listen to the Anything Is Poddable podcast.
They are not getting to the finals. But I just say that. I just say that because the East.
It's a safe bet to say that.
The East is loaded. Betting the field is just saying that the Bucks, the Heat, the Sixers, the Nets, if a lot of things go right, can all win the East and all have a ton of talent. And then you add the Cavs to that. the Hawks if they can figure out the Trae Young
It's
nonsense.
a classic
Although
middleman.
I think they're a cup behind. No,
they can get to the finals, though. They are plenty capable of getting to the finals. Like, they could beat all of those teams in a playoff series.
They are certainly capable of doing that. Yes, the safe bet is on the field.
Yes. Well, Jay is the betting man. Yes, the safe bet is on the field. Versus any.
Jay is not a betting man.
So, yeah, I like right. They absolutely are a true contender in the East. Can they get back to the finals? Yes. Will they get back to the finals? Right. It's safer to say the field, but if you were to say, well, Miami or Milwaukee or Philly, yeah, your safer bet is always betting on the field. So, all right. So we're gonna go predict. We're gonna go predict things. So this is where we ask everybody to say, all right, now go to the Anything Is Poddable feed where we get to the always famous, completely original, never done before, picking every game with a twist. We're not going to do the whole season. We're going to do like the first half of the season, and then we'll explain it there. All right, you guys ready to go?
Yeah, buddy.
Let's go. All right, head on over to the Anything Is Poddable feed. We're going to start picking every single game of the regular season. It starts over there. This is part 1. That's part 2. Now, I want to thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Make Locked On NBA your second listen every day. I host on Wednesdays. I'm not going to host this Wednesday because the Celtics are playing on Tuesday night, but I always host on Wednesdays with Jake Madison. Check it out. The biggest stories around the NBA, Monday through Friday in 30 minutes or less. It's available on YouTube, Odyssey, wherever you get your podcasts. Just like this show, available on YouTube, Odyssey, or wherever you get your podcast. So subscribe there and share the podcast. Tell your friends and family that they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.